Welcome to Cahersiveen. This is day 27 of travelling across the entire wild Atlantic Way in 30 days. The first great development of Irish monatism began in about the 5th century when groups of monks, intent on a life of solitude and contemplation, gathered together to live in places that replicated the isolation of the first desert communities. One of these was on top of Skellig Michael, a remote outcrop of rock in the Atlantic Ocean. Sometime in the 12th century, the monks of Skellig Michael abandoned the rocky island and settled instead here at Ballinskelligs, where they adopted the Augustinian rule and established a priority dedicated to St. Michael. Much of the monastery has been eroded by the sea, but what remains probably dates from the 15th century. The church and other buildings were arranged around a central cloister, gathered garth yard, which had covered walkways around it for working and praying. Parts of this cloister and a large hall, which was one of the domestic buildings, still survives.
So my name is Bob Douwes, I'm from Belgium. We are here because we love Ireland in general, but we like more specific the southwest coast, and that's why we are here. And we enjoy really the places here and the people and the food. We have been in Kenmare and we liked a lot the local restaurants there. There are quite a lot, which have very good food and very creative food, and we really enjoyed them.
Hi, I'm Lada. I'm here for a few weeks, but I really love the nature of Ireland. You definitely need to get here, and you need also to wear warm clothes because it's pretty cold here, even in the summer. In my opinion, I guess the most beautiful place I have ever seen, it's Host, and it's such a really good place. You definitely need to visit this place.
Okay, what we have here, the beautiful Skellig Islands. Skellig Michael in the foreground, Skellig Beag or Small Skellig in the background. That's not snow on Small Skellig, that's poop from the 70,000 gannets who live there. Second biggest colony on earth. Skellig Michael. St. Finian and no more than 12 monks went out there in the 6th century. The most level part of the island to build on is just below the peak. So their first job was to cut by hand from the rock these stairs to get from the bottom to the top. There are 618 of them, and that's where we get our name, Skellig 618. So we're trying to mimic that dedication that the monks have. Life on Skellig Michael was incredibly difficult. There's very little grows here, there's no wood for a fire. If you have a long summer, you have no fresh drinking water, and in winter you are battered by North Atlantic storms. So they would rely a lot on resupply coming from the mainland, but even now with our powerful motorboats, there are many trips that have to be cancelled because of high seas. So in the 6th century, it would have been impossible to get out there. In the winter time, complete isolation. So an incredibly tough life, but they persevered. So the town we're in is called Cahersiveen, and that is 3 words in the Irish language. Cahir means stone fort, and there are a number of Iron Age stone forts dotted around this area. You can go and visit them quite quickly from here. Sive is the name of a woman, and Een in the Irish language means little. So Cahersiveen means the stone fort of Little Sive. This is an artist impression of Sive, but I'm pretty sure she wasn't running around Iron Age Ireland dressed like that. Way too cool. The mythology was she was a beautiful princess turned into a deer by a jealous wizard, and she broke the curse by going into one of the stone forts and falling in love with a warrior king, and yada yada yada. And in the days before GPS, this was our navigation system, the stars. There are 3 gold tier dark sky reserves on Earth, 1 in the northern hemisphere, and you're in it. Now, our climate and stargazing, touch and go. But if we're lucky, in autumn, in September, October, November, we get very crisp, clear evenings. It's dark very early. just a few minutes outside of Cahersiveen, up into the mountains, anywhere around here, and this is what you can see with the naked eye. There are a lot of stories told about whiskey, and most of them are just that, stories. A lot of misunderstanding going on about there, who invented it, when did it start. As best we can tell from the historical record, there is a more accurate story there. Now, these are big arcs of history, but they do come back to where we want to be, so bear with me. From the Latin aqua vitae, it became an Irish ishka baha, water, life, which was condensed to whisky, which in English became whiskey. Whiskey is an Irish name for an Irish drink, let no one tell you otherwise. So this is US oak, most of the barrels in the world are, and it's also what's called a bourbon barrel. And a bourbon barrel is very easy to make. You take some material soaked in strong alcohol, you put it into your barrel, you set it alight, and pretty soon you've got charcoal. Now, over a number of years, the clear spirit goes into the wood and bleaches out about 70% of its color and flavor. And you can see where that's happened here. The rest of it's coming from the grains. But it's not finished there. That'd be too simple for 3.5 centuries of experimenting. When you're making a whiskey, you don't want one particularly strong flavor that overpowers all the others. You want a mix of flavors, some subtlety. As the clear spirit goes in, it takes some of this charcoal with it. The charcoal absorbs the heaviest molecules, which is where the strongest flavors are. But instead of returning into the barrel with the whiskey, it continues on and stores them as far away from the whiskey as it can in this line up here, which is kind of magical when you think about it. So what we have here are 3 different ages of whiskey. This is quite young, 3, maybe 4 years most. You see this little gap. This is a natural and essential process of evaporation. We call it the angel's share, just goes on up to heaven. What it does is it concentrates the flavors and aromas and colors, and it also reduces the alcohol content naturally. It's based on climate. Where we are is absolutely ideal for whiskey production. So after about 10 years, angels are having a good time now. After 25 years, more than half your barrel is empty. But you have that beautiful rich color, rich aroma, rich flavors, rich price tag. This is why aged whiskies cost what they do. If I wanted a 40-year-old whiskey, I'm going to be down here somewhere. Maybe 2, 3 bottles if I'm lucky. That's why they are so expensive, so rare, and why you rarely see a bottle, or you will never see a bottle of 50-year-old whiskey or 60-year-old whiskey. There'll be nothing left in the barrel. In the 17th and 18th century, the best-selling whiskey on earth came from Ireland. In the 18th century, 7 out of 10 glasses of whiskey poured on earth came from Dublin. There was 200 legal distilleries in Dublin, 1,100 illegal distilleries. All told, they were churning out 40 million litres of whiskey per year. And that was just Dublin. Now, there was a bit of competition going on between ourselves and Scotland, as we were pretty much the 2 countries making whiskey in the world. There was a lot of spying going on. The Scots decided they wanted to break into this export market, so they took some Irish-style whiskies and some Scottish whiskies, and they put them together. They put a label on the bottle that said Whisky of Ireland, and they started exporting to the United States. We were part of the British Empire then. We went to the London government and we said, this is bad business. And they said, not for us. Go away. So there was a number of conferences held late 18th, early 19th century. And here we put the rules of Irish whiskey in place. Irish grown grains, Irish water, triple distilled, Scotch twice, and aged in a barrel in Ireland for a minimum of 3 years. That's Irish whiskey, which is all well and good, but I can't tell that by looking at the label or looking at the liquid. How do you know? So someone came up with the very, very simple but bright idea of the letter E. Prior to that, Irish and Scotch were spelt W-H-I-S-K-Y. After that, Irish was spelt K-E-Y, so that if I'm anywhere in the world, I can look at the label, see the letter E, and I know, aha, that's the real McCoy. Okay, so that is the tour. I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your trip around Ireland. And remember, Irish whiskey, #1.
Hi, I'm Jean-Marie. I came from France. I've been here since 2 weeks in Ireland. We've been here for a wedding at start in Northern Ireland, and then we go down to all Atlantic way to here, Kerry. So now it's gonna be the end of the trip, and tomorrow we're gonna let the van out. Whiskey tour was very interesting. It was very nice to see how they connect the distillery to the land and all around, the landscape around. It was very nice. Very interesting about all the step to do whiskey and also gin, because they mixed also gin, so it was very nice. And the tasting was very good, very interesting too. We discovered how to taste it and what is the difference between Irish and Scottish whiskey and other whiskey in the world. So yeah, it was very, very nice.
So here we have Daniel O'Connell's heritage trail, O'Connell's birthplace. At Carhan Bridge, O'Connell's home comes into view on the banks of Carhan River. He was born on August 16th, 1775 at Carhan House. His parents were Morgan O'Connell and Catherine Mullane, who hailed from North Cork. There were 10 siblings in the family, 4 boys and 6 girls. The O'Connells farmed 600 acres and lived in a 2-story house with slate from Valentia Quarry on the roof, and home comprised of 5 bedrooms. Morgan was a farmer, shopkeeper and smuggler, and they sold lace, wines, silk and brandy. The O'Connells also had salt pans and a tannery. As was customary in the early 19th century, Daniel was fostered out to be a Moran family in Tirmoil. He experienced the life of a peasant and saw firsthand the treatment of Catholics during the penal laws. When he returned home, he could only speak Irish and received his first taste of education under a local hedge school teacher by the name of David O'Mahony. It's reported that he learnt the alphabet in 1.5 hours. His wealthy uncle Morris Hunting Cap O'Connell was controlling Derrynane and he had no family. He therefore paid for Daniel's education in France and later in London. O'Connell's mother, Catherine, died in 1836, and shortly afterwards Carhan House was sold to local Dr. Barry, who lives at Villanova. Both O'Connell's parents are buried in Holy Cross Abbey in Old Market Street. So thanks so much everyone for tuning in. This is the end of the day. We had a great day, learned some new things at the whiskey tour and saw some really nice places. So thanks so much and see you tomorrow.